start to look familiar, and all it took was the scene of the main character drinking some piss.
Thank you for saving me. I was so thirsty.
The clip was originally what got me interested in the show in the first place, and what's so funny about it, it's basically out of left field. I mean, the show doesn't really do anything like that again. It's such a one-off gag, and it's so totally different to the rest of the series, I'm honestly surprised it was there. But yeah, clip made its rounds, got pretty popular on Instagram, Twitter, maybe TikTok years later, and that's how so many people, including myself, saw
Cool
this
pieces,
strange
some
little
great pieces,
12-episode
that's
slice
nice.
of life rom-com about an MMO. This is Girl Online. For the record, he wasn't actually drinking piss, it was green tea. It was just like a subversion kind of thing. Don't want to get demonetized. Can you get demonetized for drinking piss?
I certainly hope not.
The show follows Rusian. That's his gamer tag, and I honestly forgot his real name, but they don't really call him anything other than Rusian, so it doesn't really matter. So Rusian plays a game called Legendary Age, which is usually abbreviated to LA, and in this game he meets Akko, his soon-to-be in-game wife. Rusian and Akko form a guild with two other guys, Schwein and Master. And they do the typical MMO things like slay monsters, loot dungeons, participate in ERP, you know, that sort of thing. One day Master gets the idea of meeting in real life. Coincidentally, they're all in Japan. And coincidentally, they all are girls, except for the main character. And coincidentally, they're all in the same high school. And coincidentally, Akko grows an attachment to the main character. Yeah, it's one of those shows. Yeah, it's stupid, I know. Look, we'll get to it, but yeah, they're all in the same high school. Akko has an extremely tough time not violating social boundaries with Rusian until it's revealed that she can't separate game and reality. Rusian to her is the same both in and out of the game, and that means she loves him as a wife would in real life. In other words, Akko has super duper autism. A club for MMO games is then formed by Master, and the show follows them playing LA after school with the sub-goal of getting Akko to unblur the line between fiction and reality. Look, I'm gonna keep it a buck with you. I'm not gonna pretend that this show is better than it is, because I mean, like, just by its premise, you can tell by me describing the show to you that it sounds like ass and probably doesn't break the season 1 pipeline bullcrap that we've talked about before. And it doesn't, but credit where credit is due. I can totally see this show being someone's guilty pleasure. It's fun enough to where if you turn your brain off and, like, don't think too hard like Akko, you can have a fun time. Should I just get all the bad stuff out of the way now? I mean, shoot, why not? For starters, this show has terrible art. The animation itself looks fine. I mean, they were probably working on a low budget, so I understand. It's not the Mona Lisa, the creme de la creme of slice of life anime, but some of these shots just look straight up unfinished. You can literally see the compression pixels on a lot of characters.
That's quite big.
And a lot of the backgrounds, especially for skits, are either just generic set pieces or flat colors. The only time the show looks visually distinct is when they enter LA, and I'll admit, the fight scenes they do are pretty cool. At the very least, it's a nice change of pace from the shows we've covered thus far that have strayed the path from anything similar. But it doesn't save the show's awful art. Like, why are Schwein's eyes doing this, like, all the time, seriously? They cannot get this girl's eyes right in any scene.
Never buy no weed from the gas station, bro.
The characters are generic and don't leave much to be desired. The MC's boring and forgettable. Schwein seems like she might have something going on with her not wanting to be associated with gamers, but then they kind of just forget about that. And Master is an unsubtle but inoffensive class president stereotype. I want to say Akko is my favorite, but even then, her lack of distinction from fiction and reality comes off as incredibly forced, and while it does lead to some sweet moments like Rusian consoling her in her bedroom and trying to get her out of her shell, it doesn't save the fact that she is extremely smooth-brained and for all intensive purposes shouldn't be alive right now. I want to watch a full episode of Akko trying to learn how to operate a stove, and if she can't get it on within the runtime, we take her out back and shoot her. Akko is by far the most catered to basement dwellers out of every female lead on this list, and it's not even close. My enjoyment from her comes the fact that she's stupid, which I find entertaining. But I can't deny that the small
Easy right
brain
now.
housewife
What the hell?
Suko Yandere who needs to be protected character they paint her as
What the
is
heck is his
annoyingly
face?
transparent. They might
But
as
is
well put a
this
sign
no?
around
It's
her
not
saying,
something
put a
possible
figurine
actually.
of me in
Never
a
mind.
jar and do unspeakable acts of God against me. The girl was made to sell hard. There's another major character called Neko Hime in this who was introduced to the audience as a 30-year-old man who plays a cat girl in
Yeah, 11
and at first it
goods.
was like, okay, this is gonna be my
This
favorite character. The idea of a cat girl played by a middle-aged dude just sounded really appealing to me. It could
Now
have been the setup to a lot
13
of
and
great
14
jokes,
goods. So
but
not possible.
alas, Neko Hime turns out to actually be a woman.
674.
Not
That's
just any
quite a
woman,
good transition. I'm not gonna
a
lie.
faculty member.
God damn.
Was coincidentally at the MMO club's high school. I suppose now would be the best time to talk about this. This show is unrealistic as fuck. So you're telling me that these players in LA all happen to be within Japan? Okay, sure. You know, reasonable. They're playing on Japanese servers. You know, that's fair enough. Then you want me to believe that they're all within the same region. Okay, slightly less realistic, but you know, fine. Same high school. Starting to be stupid. All members of the guild are women except for this one generic dude. Stupid. But then, on top of that, the character who was introduced to us as a cat girl avatar being played by a 30-year-old man happens to be a 30-year-old woman who works at the school where the same kids play and becomes the chaperone of the club. That's just really fucking stupid. Neko Hime would be infinitely better if it was literally just some 30-year-old guy who occasionally gave the MC some uncle-like advice through the visage of a cute cat girl. I mean, at least they use the same voice actor in and out of the game, and they change their pitch to reflect that. That's kind of neat. Wait a minute. Hey, I know that very nice woman. That's Monica Real. She's in every single one of these shows. She's voiced Uzaki, she's in Dress Up Darling, and I have no doubt we'll see her again later. This lady makes bank off of loser animes, I swear. Honestly, no discredit to her. She's proven she can be an extremely capable actor when given
Nice.
the right script and direction.
Great
I mean,
Bill,
she voices
honestly.
Bulma, for Christ's sake. She just puts on the same voice for all of these slice of life characters that she voices, and it's this nasally kid-like voice, and honestly, every time I hear it, again, no disrespect, Vegeta,
You're on thin ice, honky.
I just immediately kind of knock a few points from my I'm trying to say that in the nicest way possible that I hate the voice that she does for these shows. without
Acting to
sounding like a dick.
26?
Okay?
What the
There,
flip?
I said it.
Commodity, this is the CEO of Funimation. I'm blacklisting you from the industry, kid.
No! You're kidding me! What? No!
It's not true. You
No!
can't believe me.
No! Ah, that's so sad.
I see you out
Why?
there. I respect the hell out of you for it. It's gotta suck
God
being
damn
in
it.
one of these. You might think and slowly growing closer romantically as Yuta slowly goes from renouncing his Chunibyo ways to appreciating them as he bonds with Rika. So right away, some of you might be scratching your heads at me, maybe even shaking your fists. Hey, you YouTube man, those aren't the names of the characters. What gives? Well, as it turns out, the dub changes some of the titles given to the characters and club names to more naturally translate the odd Chunibyo phrases into English. For example, Rika's eye is called the Tyrant's Eye in Japanese, but with all the lip flapping you need to say that in Japanese, you couldn't naturally dub it in English as Tyrant's Eye, so they changed it to Eye of the Wicked Lord. Get what I mean so far? So yeah, for any confused, that's why some of the names are different. Just thought I should mention that for any of my sub viewers watching. But speaking of the dub, once again, this show and other loser animes on this list knock it out of the park with their casting, delivery, and timing, for the most part. I'll admit, Rika's dub voice actor took me some getting used to, since her voice is a lot different than the sub, which is what I originally watched it with. But after watching it for a bit, I actually kind of prefer her dub voice. Maybe less prefer and more of it being like a side grade. I know, still blasphemous to say, but hear me out, let me cook. I think giving Rika a voice that's more malleable fits her more as a dumbass kid pretending to be cool compared to her just sort of putting on a generic anime moe voice in Japanese. In English, her deeper voice is off-putting at first until you hear her squeal or something, and then she goes back to sounding like a kid in a Fortnite Among Us server. Everyone else is Hey, wait a minute.
Delivering this to Takanashi's place.
Hey, get back here. The art is astounding. It's jarring going from Girl Online to this show. With a studio like KyoAni behind it, I always knew the show was gonna look good, but holy hell. This is probably the best looking show, not just in this video, but on this list. The colors are all pretty, the designs are cute, the set pieces are beautiful, the cinematography and framing are top notch, and the fight choreography goes hard. If I had just one teensy tiny little complaint, it's that the characters kind of all have same face syndrome. I mean, they all look like they just walked out of a K-On! Character creator, but honestly, that's fine. I don't really care about that as much as other artists do. The music, though, whew, something else. The openings, endings, and soundtrack are all fire, particularly OP2, ED1, and the battle tracks. Something I haven't really brought up a lot when talking about these shows is their soundtracks, because more often than not, they're very samey and blend into each other, like they're made in a factory. The songs feel cloned. Like, you guys ever notice that these shows have like the same recorder MIDI that's used whenever something stupid happens? Word of advice to any professional Japanese soundtrack composers listening right now, as unlikely as that may be, there's other funny sounding instruments out there.
This Tomaso white boy just said I can no longer use recorders. I'd better report the didgeridoo.
The art and music are just two of Chunibyo's strengths, among the many other strong suits it possesses. Like, for example, the characters. Yuta might be my favorite protagonist from this list of shows. At first, it's so easy just to write him off as being a boring male lead who you're meant to envision yourself as, and you can do that, otherwise it wouldn't be considered for this video, but his growth throughout the show is unlike anything seen here. Before episode 1, Yuta is a Chunibyo kid, the Dark Flame Master, destroyer of worlds, slayer of men, and liver of mom's basement, but we see him grow out of that phase and begin to resent it. It was only through meeting Rika that he learned to not only appreciate his past, but embrace it, occasionally donning the moniker once more when it suits him. Some of the best parts of this show are when Yuta adopts the Dark Flame Master persona again. It's usually in pursuit of making Rika happy or convincing her to do something stupid like, "Rika, the Dark Flame Dragon commands you to take out the garbage." Or, you know, something like that. Nevertheless, it's always appreciated when it happens, and it reminds the audience that Yuta is more than a one-dimensional cardboard cutout of a protagonist. He has depth, and that depth is explored further with his extremely well-written relationship with Rika. At the start of the show, Rika idolized Yuta because of his Chunibyo, and after that phase ended for him, Rika tries to pull him back in. As the show goes on, we learn that Rika uses Chunibyo and the fantasy world that she lives in as a coping mechanism for dealing with her father's passing. Rika and her dad used to watch the lights from the sailboats and ships along the ocean when she was little, and this became associated cognitively with her father, becoming the symbol of afterlife for Rika, the invisible boundary line. There was a point in the show where Rika dropped Chunibyo per the request of her sister, Toka, who is a baddie, by the way, golly! And she does so. Yuta, seeing the error of his ways, tells Rika to instead embrace it. Yuta takes her to see the lights along the horizon and lets her envision her father one last time and say goodbye, proving to Toka that having a sense of wonder and childhood whimsy is not always something that you should take away once you reach adulthood. You can see that Yuta truly cares for Rika through his actions, not his words. A lot of the time in these shows, the protagonist will say something like, "You're pretty," or "You're very special to me," on accident, but this is why I like protagonists like Gojo and Yuta. The best scene in this show for me is the rooftop scene. For those that don't know, Rika makes her introduction in episode 1 by descending down to Yuta's balcony via a rope. Yuta is there when she first arrives and helps her down by cupping her feet. Around the halfway point of the first season, Rika and Yuta are chilling on the rooftop when suddenly Rika slips and is about to fall. Unable to catch her and unable to pull her up, Yuta instead rockets down to the floor below and helps her down in the same way that he did when he met her. Now you as an audience member know that Rika is not gonna fall off this roof, but it's sweet nonetheless. It is setup, payoff, and it shows that from the very start, Yuta has always been there to care for Rika. it's just, it's this and the fact that he's always doing little things to help Rika, like helping her with her math homework, buying her a new umbrella, etc. Some Chunibyo fans might actually protest my feelings towards Yuta with saying that he hits her? And like, yeah, he does do that. Occasionally for a gag, Yuta will bop Rika on the head or smack her, punch her, pull her hair, whatever. But here's the thing, that just kind of happens to everyone in this show. Like, characters will just randomly punch each other for no reason. Slapstick is a common occurrence in the Chunibyo world. Point is, even though it does kind of silly things like just teensy tiny bit, I don't think it matters too much. The relationship is still well written. The other characters are great too. I wasn't the biggest fan of Nibatani, another character regretful of her Chunibyo past, because she can be kind of a bitch sometimes and not in a funny way, but the moments where she adopts her old persona as Mori Summer are sweet, and I like her relationship with Dekamori. Dekamori is Rika's faithful servant, a middle schooler who is also stuck in Chunibyo. I'd be lying if I said she wasn't annoying on certain occasions, but they know when to draw the line when it comes to her overstaying her welcome. She's also the focal point for one of my favorite scenes in the entire show, the train scene. By this point in the story, Yuta is at his lowest and just wants to help Rika grow out of her Chunibyo, and in his desperation he breaks down and takes it all out on Dekamori. He says it's not real, and it never has been, and that it won't help Rika to think it has been. To which Dekamori starts to cry and says, I know that. I've always known that. I love this scene. It's so heartbreaking, and I'm gonna be honest, in full expectation of being called a bitch in the comments, this scene was the closest I got to crying in one of these shows. It's painfully well done, and it's just a gut punch to see this character so full of childish whimsy.
Hey, let's go. Back to back, back. Back to back. Back to back, baby. Hell yeah. Let's go. Finally got the back-to-back. I'm so happy. Hell yeah.
But she's just kind of silly and nice to have around. Ishiki is edging the perverted male trope.
So happy with that. Oh my gosh.
To the point where he's like sexually harassing women. Well, physically anyway. He's a good guy at the end of the day, and he only really does perverted things out of a want for love. Not anything
So
sexual.
freaking happy, dude. Oh my gosh. Hell yeah. Finally.
Honestly, my biggest complaint about Ishiki is the fact